I wanted to ask you, right now there are 4 Nigerians who we know are interested in the 2027 race. There are 4 of them that we know. The president himself,
yes.
His party men have been going all over.
And nobody is likely to contest.
Exactly. Saying that they have given him second term already and all of that. In the ruling party. And in the opposition, we have at least 3 candidates. From the south, we have Mr. Rotimi Amechi. We have Mr. Peter Obi. And then in the north, we have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
Yes.
Let's start with the president. I mean, whom you had a meeting with, alongside other. How do you think is preparing for that election, considering some of the things that he himself has said in the past? 2 things I will highlight to you and then we will respond. He said that, look, and I think he even told you guys that, look, we asked for this job and we know it's tough.
Yes, tough.
I think he said that.
Said so.
Okay.
Said so.
That's one. So that people shouldn't play. And then he said during the campaigns in 2023 that if he doesn't solve the power problem,
and they have been sharing the newspapers that published all those things. He said
that if I don't solve the power problem and even make sure that you guys get, you don't pay estimated billing, that when I come out to vote, don't vote for me. Against those 2 backgrounds, I want us to do some kind of analysis and psychoanalysis. How is he? Because clearly, he hasn't achieved. We are still struggling. With power. We don't have power. Not to even talk of I don't know the situation with estimated billing, but there's no power.
Yes.
So, what's your reading of his? Let's do a psychoanalysis of how he's going to go into that race with that baggage.
Here, I want to believe that we still do not have the civic competence within the populace. Civic competence, the kind of civic awareness, the understanding that the word of these politicians is supposed to be sacrosanct, that we are supposed to hold them to account for the promises that they have not fulfilled. I believe that we do not have that voter education that they are talking about within INEC and voter education. And the political parties, now, who should be doing this? This thing was brought out from the social media. They did some data mining and brought out the promises that were published on the front pages of 6 newspapers that everybody is sharing now. That is trying to spread some awareness. However, regardless of my own claim about civic competence that we still do not have.
Yeah.
But then, this is a wake-up call for not only for the political leaders, for us in the media and civil society to hold these, our leaders, and this particular leader to account. Because I was just joking before we even started this thing that how many members of the so-called elite, the business class and all those things like that can even afford to put on this cooling system. Whether it's the refrigerator at home or your air conditioner, even if it is because of the cost alone, it's not even about availability. The cost, it is not even available. Even the newspapers that you see today, you see people are talking about the implication of this energy crisis that you see now. I sat down the day before yesterday in a place in Lagos. Within an hour, they had power outage about 13 times. It was just going and come where they had band A. In other words, we do not have. And then there was a signal that was sent. I don't know how many people are reading the signal. And I think that the last count now, the office of the president, the State House, the permanent secretary went to the National Assembly public hearing on appropriation for 2026 that they had invested 17 billion. Last year, they invested 10 billion for the solar energy system.
For the villa.
And this year, for the villa.
Getting out of grid.
Yes, and then this year, it will be 7 billion. So, about 17 billion. Now, for solar system for the presidential villa alone, not for Abuja, So what is, we have to juxtapose this one with the promise to give the country electricity for the industries to function and for even the people to function to effectively, for people to live, so on. So when you juxtapose this, that the office of the president is going to be disconnected from the national grid, is what of Abuja, what of the MDAs, what of the federal bureaucracy generally?
Not to talk of the people.
Maybe we should begin to ask, if not the president, begin to ask the president's agent, that is the minister in charge of power, who we have read is also eyeing.
I mean, I get your point, Mr. Oloja. Let's focus on the president. We're talking about the election.
Yes.
I want to ask you, what do you think he will say? Because it's clear he wants to get a second term. You know, you and I even believe that the way they run like just politics, like you said, you'll probably get it. But how do you think he's going to confront the electorate with the fact that he has failed shabbily on the question of power?
I will not focus on what he will say because I will not be able to speculate. I will rather focus on the media, what we should ask.
Okay. I get your point.
You see now?
Yeah.
As a politician, he will have something to say. He will have an escape route. But we should be asking ourselves in the media, how should we confront him with that question?
Okay.
Of how his promise, he has less than a year, and this is the situation we have found ourselves in. He has raked in, he has disrupted the economic architecture, and now he's saying that he is getting more revenue.
Well, you know,
how are we going to ask the contextualization I was giving you, that in the office of the president, the presidency, what we call the presidency, is not just the whole presidency, the presidential villa, which is now outside the original 3 arms zone. That place alone is going to consume 17 billion, and from that, they are going to disconnect the office of the president. We do not, he is the president. He needs security, we need it. We, the people, too, need electricity. How he is going to explain that one to the people? I am disconnected. As long as I have this mandate, I am going to I've budgeted 17 billion for solar energy system. What of the Federal Capital Territory? What of the people within the Federal Capital Territory? What of the people in the 36 states of the Federation? How are we going to do? What of the industries? How are they going to? I will, instead of concentrating on his answer, instead of speculating, I will rather ask
it should be put to task.
It should be put to
task.
That I'm talking to members of the opposition.
Right.
You know that to get power from somebody in power in Nigeria, the incumbency advantage is there. And this particular grandmaster, the way he's organizing his politics and the game plan now, it's not easy. So they should bring something more profound
to the table.
And even mobilize the young ones who are very knowledgeable, very fast, very sharp-witted now. Before they get them to their side, the opposition should bring facts, data to the table for us to be able to make up our mind.
Okay, because of our time, let's round up the conclusion. And I want you to talk about those 3 candidates that we have so far. Now, I will make a comment and then you respond and then we close it.
Yeah.
So we have Oloja Atiku Abubakar, we have Rotimi Amaechi and Peter Obi. Now, I have a fundamental concern about rotational presidency. I believe that with due respect to the former Vice President Abubakar, his insistence in running in 2023 is the most significant factor in the death and destruction of PDP. This is my view. Now, if the ADC makes the same mistake and, say that, oh, look, we're going to throw it open, I think it will be the way they will destroy ADC, because I think that issue of rotational presidency is getting entrenched in our mentality. After 8 years with Buhari from the north, I think people are saying that give us 8 years in the south. So that takes me to the second part, and then you give the final conclusion. So that leaves us with Amaechi and Peter Obi. Now, I think if the opposition were serious, those are the two people that you ought to be pushing out. And if there are other people from the side that you want to push, look at Peter Obi. Well, he did very well, in the last election. Amaechi came second in the APC primaries. And whatever you say about the Buhari years, which I was a part of, people know that, one of the major things that happened in that administration is the advance in infrastructure. And so Amaechi was the guy behind it for the most part. So they have two good candidates in the South that they ought to be pushing, that they're not pushing. And there seems to be this, everybody believes that, look, this thing is just going to be a coronation for Atiku Abubakar. I think that will destroy the opposition. Your comment?
No, definitely, I can't disagree with this analysis. It's just to even, just to look at it this way, that, well, this rotational issue is for us now like fundamental objective, and it's what they use in building peace in Nigeria.
Yeah,
within the system.
Yeah,
it was
actually the PDP.
The PDP, and then that was what this Hurricane Wike used.
Yeah,
and that was why his campaign against his own party candidate at that time.
That's why it was
successful, and he was going around the world to campaign against him. That look, we cannot get another northerner, another candidate from the north to succeed.
I think it's insensitive.
Yes, that is insensitive, and that was why that campaign was very successful, and that it helped the APC candidate at that time. The campaign of Wike against,
of course.
Yeah, we knew, we don't want to talk about where Wike was coming from, that he also wanted to be candidate, wanted to be running mate.
Yeah.
But when he held on to that argument, that no, it was successful and it helped. This way, I am not too sure that these people have learned some lessons from the background you just gave. That, look, if Atiku Abubakar, former vice president of this country, is not a small boy. He has this political stature. He has the networkers all over the place.
True.
But the elements at this time, I think people may be tired. I don't think he can get, that is my own view as an analyst, that I do not believe that he can get enough vote against the person who is completing, who is rounding off his first term in Nigeria now. This grandmaster is possible but not expedient.
Not expedient, and I like that. Thank you so much. Free advice to the opposition.
Yes. That
if you play the game the way Nigerian politicians play the game, you cannot beat Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You cannot at this time.
The only way to play the game, if you want to have a contest against Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is to change the dynamics. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Martins Oloja. We're going to be having more of these conversations as we move close to the presidential election in January of 2027. Yes. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much.
Insightful contribution.
Thank you.
And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. It means Nigeria will win, partly because we will keep raising the major issues. My name is Laolu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition. Thank you for watching.